Rain hammered the windshield as Sergeant Elias Ward pulled into the circular driveway of the Blue Harbor Hotel, a four-star seaside property that advertised luxury hospitality and unwavering respect. Elias almost laughed at the slogan glowing in golden letters above the entrance. Respect wasn't something he demanded in life, but he had earned more than a little of it. 13 years in the Army, 2 deployments, countless nights under hostile skies, he had worn the flag with pride. And tonight, he wanted nothing more than a dry room, a hot shower, and the silence he'd been craving for months. His duffel bag felt heavier than usual as he stepped through the revolving doors. The lobby shimmered with polished marble floors, towering pillars, and an extravagant chandelier dripping with crystals like frozen raindrops. Guests in expensive coats lounged by the fireplace. A jazz tune hummed faintly from hidden speakers. Elias inhaled deeply. The place smelled of lavender polish and money. He approached the reception desk where 2 employees chatted with each other, not even glancing in his direction. Elias cleared his throat. "Evening," he said. "Reservation for Ward, Elias Ward?" The younger receptionist, a slim man with slicked back hair and a forced smile, finally looked up. His eyes darted to Elias's uniform, the camouflage fatigues he still wore from traveling, and something cold flashed across his face. Annoyance? Disgust? Elias couldn't tell, but he'd seen that expression before. "Too many times. Name again?" The man asked, as if Elias were interrupting something important. "Ward," Elias repeated calmly. "I booked a 3-night stay. Confirmed yesterday." The receptionist clicked on his keyboard with unnecessary aggression. We're fully booked." Elias frowned. "That's not possible." "I have a confirmation email." "Well," the man said, leaning back smugly, "maybe you misread it." Elias slowly exhaled, trying to keep his patience. "I didn't misread anything." "Check again." The second receptionist, a woman with sharp glasses, stepped closer and whispered something to her colleague. She glanced at Elias with a look that wasn't subtle judgment wrapped in disdain. Soldiers, he'd learned, often triggered assumptions. Troublemakers, drunks, rule breakers, damaged goods. Some people didn't understand that discipline wasn't just trained, it was lived. "No vacancies," the man repeated flatly. "The cheapest room we might have would be—" "Let me check." "Oh, wait." He gave a fake apologetic shrug. "Actually, no. Nothing available." Elias clenched his jaw. "Sir, my reservation was prepaid." "You can't just—" "Oh, we can," the man cut in smugly. "Hotel policy allows cancellations due to aesthetic concerns." Elias blinked. "Aesthetic?" The woman joined in. "This is a luxury environment. Guests expect a certain image. Your attire doesn't fit that tonight." She gestured vaguely at his uniform as if it were dirty or offensive. Elias felt heat rising in his chest. "You're denying me a room because I'm in uniform?" "We're asking you," the man said, voice dripping with condescension, "to come back dressed." Appropriately, Elias looked down at himself. Dust from the road, rainwater, fatigue sure. But it was the same uniform worn by thousands protecting the country that gave this hotel permission to thrive. Something twisted inside him, anger, disappointment, disbelief. "Let me speak to the manager," he said. The woman smiled, satisfied. "She's unavailable." "Then I'll wait," Elias insisted. They exchanged a look. A small, dangerous grin crossed the man's face. "No," he said. "You won't." Before Elias could react, 2 security guards appeared from the hallway, clearly summoned. "Problem?" one of them asked, puffing his chest. The receptionist pointed at Elias. "He's disturbing guests." "Escort him out." Elias felt the world tilt slowly, wrongfully. "I haven't raised my voice." "I haven't—" "Sir," the guard cut in, "we're going to need you to leave the premises." Other guests had begun to watch, some whispering, some frowning. A few looked guilty for not intervening. Elias lifted his hands, palms out, showing he wasn't resisting. This is how you treat a veteran? He asked quietly. The guard shrugged. Not my problem. The second guard reached for Elias's elbow. Elias stepped back sharply. Don't touch me. That was all it took. The receptionist gasped theatrically, clutching his chest as if Elias had lunged at him. He's threatening us. Remove him. The guards grabbed him, one on each arm, gripping tighter than necessary. Elias didn't fight. Fighting would only confirm the lie being built around him. Instead, he let them drag him through the lobby as murmurs rippled among onlookers. Just before the guards shoved him out into the rain, Elias turned back. The chandelier light caught on the polished counters, the luxury decor, the employees who stared with superiority instead of shame. And for the first time that night, Elias felt something stronger than exhaustion. Resolve. They didn't just deny him a room. They humiliated him in front of strangers, demeaned his service, and violated a contract he had legally paid for. The Blue Harbor Hotel thought he'd walk away quietly, head bowed like someone caught doing wrong. But they didn't know who they were dealing with. As the cold rain soaked through his uniform, Elias whispered to himself, "This isn't over." And he meant every word. The rain didn't let up as Sergeant Elias Ward stood outside the gleaming doors of the Blue Harbor Hotel, his uniform soaked, his duffel bag growing heavier by the second. Cars glided by on the slick road, splashing water across the curb, but Elias barely noticed. His mind was replaying the scene inside the lobby over and over, the dismissal, the condescension, the thinly veiled disgust. He had endured hostile fire, months without home-cooked meals, nights under freezing skies, but somehow the look on that receptionist's face burned worse than anything he'd faced overseas. He found refuge under the small awning near the edge of the hotel's drive. The cold wind whipped around him, but at least he wasn't directly under the downpour anymore. He pulled out his phone, thumb trembling from the cold, and opened the email with his reservation details. There it was, clear, paid, confirmed. And yet they had treated him as if he were a threat, an inconvenience, a blemish on their precious luxury image. His jaw tightened, aesthetic concerns. They had essentially said a soldier didn't fit their standards. It wasn't just a denial, it was degradation. Elias leaned against the wall, taking slow, controlled breaths, trying to keep frustration from morphing into rage. He'd been trained to stay calm under pressure, but this was different. This wasn't war. This was supposed to be his own country, his own people, and still he'd been shoved out like trash. A soft buzzing from his phone pulled him out of the whirlwind in his head. It was a text from Mia Hart, his childhood best friend, and now a rising star attorney in the state. You back in town yet? Need to talk about the graduation event. Elias hesitated. Mia had stood by him through almost everything, broken bones, heartbreaks, deployments, but he hated calling her when he was at his worst. Still, tonight wasn't ordinary. And Mia wasn't the type to let injustice slide. He typed back, "Yeah, something happened. Can you talk?" Within seconds, she replied, "Call me, now." Elias dialed her number. The moment she heard his voice, quiet, strained, colder than usual, she asked, "What's wrong?" "Are you hurt?" "No," Elias said, "just tired." "And angry. Tell me." So he did. He explained everything, the reception desk, the smirks, the fabricated policy, the guards dragging him out like a problem instead of a paying guest. He kept his voice steady, but the bitterness slipped through. Mia didn't interrupt. He could hear her breathing, controlled but growing sharper. When he finally finished, she said only one thing. "They did what to you?" "Denied me a room. Said my uniform wasn't." No, Mia snapped. "They can't do that. That's illegal on several levels. You had a confirmed reservation. They violated contract law. And the discrimination, Elias, that's actionable?" Elias sighed. "I don't want to be dramatic. I just wanted a room." "This isn't dramatic," Mia said firmly. This is blatant discrimination and wrongful removal. You were treated like a criminal for wearing the uniform that protects these people's rights to run that hotel. He felt a small weight lift off his chest, just hearing someone say it out loud. Where are you right now? She asked. Still outside the hotel? Mia cursed under her breath. Stay there. I'm 20 minutes away. You don't have to. I'm coming, she cut in. And Elias? Don't let them get away with this. Not tonight. The call ended. Elias put his phone back into his pocket and watched droplets race down the glass doors of the hotel. People moved inside laughing, chatting, enjoying the warmth of the lobby he'd been pushed out of. None of them knew what had happened. None of them knew how deeply humiliation could cut. He waited, arms crossed tightly to keep the cold from seeping deeper. His uniform clung to him, rain-soaked and heavy. A valet worker glanced his way, but quickly looked away, uncomfortable. Elias couldn't blame him. Confrontation made most people nervous, especially when it didn't involve them. 20 minutes later, a white SUV pulled up, and Mia jumped out, umbrella in hand. She wore a sharp black coat and carried herself with the confidence of someone who had argued against senators and won. Her brown eyes scanned Elias quickly, taking in his soaked uniform, the tension in his posture, the exhaustion etched into his face. Oh my God, Elias, she breathed. You're freezing. She pulled him under the umbrella and walked him toward her car, but Elias stopped. I'm not leaving yet, he said quietly. Mia's brows furrowed. What do you mean? Elias looked at the grand entrance again, the chandelier glowing through the glass. They acted like they could do whatever they wanted, like people in uniforms don't matter. I can't just walk away. Not again. Mia studied him, her expression softening. Good, she said, because I didn't come here to drive you home. She opened her bag and pulled out a small notepad. I came here to gather evidence. Elias blinked. Evidence? Yes. First, we record your statement. Then we get the names of the employees involved. We check the lobby cameras. We file a complaint with the State Discrimination Board. And then... She smiled sharply. We make them explain their aesthetic policy in court. Elias felt a warmth, not physical, but something deeper, replacing the cold humiliation that had stained the night. Mia, he murmured, you don't have to fight this battle for me. I'm not doing it for you, she said. I'm doing it because what they did is wrong. And because I know you'd do the same for someone else. He looked at the hotel doors again. So what's our first move? Mia stepped forward, raising her umbrella like a shield. We walk back inside. And we don't ask this time. It was the first spark of justice. And Elias was ready. Elias followed Mia closely as they approached the shining glass doors of the Blue Harbor Hotel doors that had closed behind him just an hour earlier with cruelty and finality. Now they slid open automatically, welcoming them both inside with warm air and soft jazz music, as if nothing had happened. Elias hesitated for half a second, a flicker of the humiliation from earlier tugging at him, but Maya stepped forward without fear. Come on, she said gently. They already crossed the line. We're just walking on it. The lobby looked exactly as it had before, luxurious, serene, indifferent. Guests sat by the fire-sipping wine. A couple posed for photos under the chandelier, and the receptionist duo still stood behind the counter. When they noticed Elias and Mia, their faces twisted into expressions ranging from annoyance to alarm. The male receptionist stiffened instantly. You, sir, you were asked to leave the premises. You cannot return. Mia walked right up to the counter, placing her leather notebook down with deliberate slowness. My name is Attorney Mia Hart. I represent Sergeant Elias Ward, and you will not address him again unless it's to apologize or identify yourselves for legal documentation. The young man blinked, frozen between panic and arrogance. The woman with the sharp glasses tried to regain control. Ma'am, this is a private property. We reserve the right to refuse. Refuse service based on what? Mia shot back sharply. His race, his uniform, his military status, or the fact that he doesn't fit your so-called aesthetic? Both employees exchanged a frantic look. I never said that, the woman stammered. You did, Elias said quietly. Word for word. Mia flipped open her notebook. Luckily for us, the lobby cameras should verify that. And if they don't, that's another violation we'll be discussing with the hotel's legal team. The male receptionist swallowed hard. Look, maybe this is a misunderstanding. No, Mia said, voice crisp as glass. What happened to him wasn't a misunderstanding. It was discrimination, breach of contract, humiliation, and wrongful removal by security personnel. Two nearby guests turned their heads, suddenly paying attention. The woman behind the counter tried again. We didn't mean, Mia raised a hand. Save it. For now, I need both of your names, job titles, employee IDs, and the name of your general manager. The man shook his head quickly. We're not allowed to give out private information. Mia smirked. It's not private. It's workplace identification requested for a legal incident. If you refuse, that will be recorded as obstruction. The woman's lips tightened. This isn't fair. He came in here dirty, soaking wet. Elias felt something inside him sink, despite having expected the comment. Mia slammed her notebook shut with a sharp snap. And what does being wet have to do with anything? Soldiers aren't decorative pieces for your lobby. They aren't required to dress to your standards after traveling through a storm. You denied him service not because of the weather, but because of bias. And now we have witnesses listening. Indeed, several guests were now fully tuned in. An older couple approached cautiously from behind. Excuse us, the older gentleman said politely, but is this true? Did you turn him away for being in uniform? The receptionist froze. The man shook his head sadly. My brother served 2 tours. If he were treated like that. His voice trailed into disappointment. The woman beside him placed a hand over her heart. It's shameful. The ripple of disapproval spread, guests whispering around the lobby. The employees at the desk started shifting nervously, looking at each other for a rescue that wasn't coming. Mia leaned closer, voice low but razor sharp. Now, before I formally file a complaint and notify the media, you have one chance to do the right thing. Get your manager. The male receptionist gave up trying to talk his way out. He hurried toward the back office. While he disappeared behind a staff-only door, Mia tapped her pen against her notebook. Elias watched her with quiet admiration. She had turned into a storm of her own, one the hotel wasn't prepared to face. You didn't have to do all that, Elias said softly. I absolutely did, she replied. They tried to intimidate you. Now they can see how it feels. He gave her a small smile. Thank you. Mia nudged him gently. Don't thank me yet. This is only the beginning. 5 minutes later, the manager arrived. A tall woman with a perfectly tailored suit and eyes that tried too hard to look composed. She approached them with a tight smile. I'm Marlene Cooper, the general manager. I understand there was a disturbance. Not a disturbance, Mia corrected. A violation. The manager subtly shifted her posture, realizing she wasn't dealing with just an angry guest. Let's step into my office. No, Mia said calmly. Everything stays out here. Transparency is important. More guests were listening now. The manager glanced around and reluctantly nodded. Fine, I've been told there was a misunderstanding regarding Mr. Ward's reservation. Not a misunderstanding, Mia repeated. A discriminatory cancellation followed by a humiliating removal. Now we need answers. The manager inhaled, clearly regretting that she hadn't walked into the lobby sooner. Let me first apologize, Sergeant Ward. This hotel honors military service. Save it, Elias said quietly, surprising even himself. Honor isn't words, it's action. And your staff showed none. The guests nearby murmured in agreement. Mia leaned in. We will require the incident report, security logs, access to the lobby footage, and written confirmation of the employees involved. And depending on how you proceed, we'll determine whether we handle this quietly or not. The manager's facade cracked. "This is serious," she whispered. Mia smiled coldly. So it was throwing him out. Elias felt a new kind of warmth in his chest. Not anger this time, but power regained, dignity restored. And as the manager scrambled to respond, Elias knew one thing clearly. The hotel's nightmare had just begun. Elias and Mia stayed in the lobby as Marlene Cooper, the general manager, called for her assistant to bring over a laptop and a stack of printed logs. The air between them was thick with tension, a mixture of corporate unease and a quiet determination that Elias hadn't felt since returning from his last deployment. Guests continued to linger, some whispering, some filming the scene discreetly on their phones. Word was spreading quickly, and the employees behind the desk shifted nervously with every passing moment. Marlene finally gestured toward the laptop. "These are the security logs and the reservation records," she said. "You can review them here." Mia nodded. "Thank you. We'll need copies of all footage from the lobby cameras for the past 48 hours, specifically the time between 7 o'clock and 9 p.m. last night." The manager hesitated. "That will take time to process." "There are privacy regulations." "I'm aware," Mia interrupted. "But this is a legal investigation, and Sergeant Ward was a paying customer denied service. We are entitled to this evidence." Elias watched the manager finally nod and sigh. The weight of bureaucracy was apparent, but the resolve in Mia's voice left no room for argument. While Marlene went to authorize the footage, Mia turned to Elias. "Tell me everything again." Step by step, he recounted the sequence. From checking into the moment the guards grabbed him. He described the look on the receptionist's faces, the woman's whispered comments, and the guards' unnecessary roughness. Mia typed notes rapidly, occasionally pausing to ask a question. "Did any guests intervene?" she asked. Some stared, a few whispered to each other. "That was it." Elias shook his head. "Nobody wanted to get involved." "I can't blame them, but I know someone must have recorded this. Someone always does." Mia's eyes lit up. "Perfect. That's exactly what we need, independent witnesses. Later, we'll track down their statements, get their contact info. Every detail counts." Marlene returned with the laptop, opening a folder labeled Lobby Security. Elias leaned in as Mia scanned the logs. "There," she said, pointing to a frame showing him standing at the counter, calm but firm, while the receptionist whispered to his colleague, "Perfect time stamp. This proves your presence and shows that you weren't aggressive at any point." Elias exhaled slowly. "It's surreal. I can't believe this happened. And I can't believe how easy it was for them to treat me like I didn't matter." Mia placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "They underestimated the wrong person. You weren't just a customer, they picked the wrong soldier to humiliate. That uniform doesn't just represent you. It represents everything you fought for. People will pay attention when they see that injustice." The manager cleared her throat. "We, want to make amends. We can offer a complimentary stay, meals, and apologize formally." "No," Elias said firmly, surprising even himself. "This isn't about free nights or meals. This is about accountability. This is about ensuring no other soldier, veteran, or guest is treated the way I was." Marlene's lips tightened. "But," Mia cut her off, "no buts. You will cooperate fully with us, but there will be no downplaying, no excuses. If you want this resolved quietly, it must be on your terms. Otherwise," her gaze swept the lobby, "the public will hear about it. Your choice." The tension in the manager's shoulders visibly increased. The power dynamic had shifted. Elias could sense it, the same feeling he had when leading troops in the field calm focus. Authority born from knowledge and principle. Over the next hour, they compiled every bit of available evidence, reservation records, timestamps of calls, security footage frames, and written statements from employees who reluctantly confirmed the incident. Mia even instructed Elias to take photographs of his uniform and soaked duffel bag visual proof that contradicted the hotel's claim that he was messy or disruptive. A few guests approached cautiously, offering statements. One young woman, who had been sitting by the fireplace, said she had overheard the receptionist saying, "We can't let him stay dressed like that." Another man offered to share his video, shot from across the lobby, showing the guards roughly escorting Elias to the doors. By the time the manager excused herself to review the footage further, Elias and Mia had amassed a comprehensive dossier. Mia leaned back, her eyes gleaming with quiet triumph. "We're not rushing into court yet," she said. "We're giving them a chance to respond, to make it right under pressure. If they fail, the next step is litigation, and believe me, that's when things get serious." Elias nodded. For the first time since the incident, he felt a sense of control returning. He had walked into the Blue Harbor Hotel as a victim and stepped back into it as a force to be reckoned with. He understood fully now. This wasn't just about a room or humiliation, it was about setting a precedent, about showing that service, honor, and dignity couldn't be brushed aside because someone decided it didn't fit their image. Outside, the rain had finally slowed to a drizzle, and the evening light reflected off the wet pavement. But inside the lobby, a storm was building, a storm that the Blue Harbor Hotel could not ignore. And Elias, once pushed out into the rain, was standing at the center of it, ready to see it through. The following morning, Elias and Mia arrived at the Blue Harbor Hotel, not as guests, but as a legal team prepared for confrontation. The lobby, now familiar, seemed colder than the night before. Employees whispered behind counters, eyes flicking nervously toward them as they entered. The manager, Marlene Cooper, met them halfway, her polished demeanor attempting to mask the fatigue from yesterday's events. "Good morning, Sergeant Ward. Miss Hart," she said carefully. "I trust you had time to review the materials we provided." Mia's lips curled into a small, controlled smile. "Yes, we did, and it confirms everything we expected. The logs, the footage, the statements, they all align perfectly with Sergeant Ward's account." Marlene's posture stiffened. "I understand your position, but we also have policies in place to protect our guests and staff. Our intention was never to discriminate." Elias cut in, calm but firm. "Intention doesn't erase the impact of your actions. I was denied service, humiliated, and physically removed. That's the reality." Marlene exhaled, her hands gripping her briefcase. "Our lawyers advise us to settle this quietly. Perhaps a financial compensation package and a public apology." Mia shook her head. "Compensation is secondary. This is about accountability and prevention. We want written acknowledgement of misconduct, disciplinary action for those involved, and a formal policy review." The manager frowned. "Disciplinary action?" "For the employees who were following procedure." "They were following procedure that is illegal and discriminatory," Mia said. "That's not following the law. That's hiding behind a policy to justify mistreatment." From behind the counter, the young receptionist muttered under his breath. "This is bad, really bad." Mia's gaze flicked to him. "Yes, it is. And it only gets worse if you refuse to cooperate fully." At that moment, Marlene's assistant arrived with another tablet, showing emails exchanged internally between the front desk and security staff. The messages included phrases like, "We can't let him stay in uniform," and "guests won't feel comfortable." Elias felt a surge of vindication. "There it is," he said quietly. "Proof that it wasn't an accident. This was deliberate." Marlene's face paled. That doesn't mean..." "It means your staff deliberately violated my rights," Mia interrupted sharply, "and the law supports him. Contract law, anti-discrimination law, veterans protection statutes, these are not suggestions. They are enforceable." A few guests who had arrived for breakfast glanced toward the scene, murmuring among themselves. One man approached cautiously. "I overheard everything yesterday," he said. "It's disgraceful how you treated him." Everyone here saw it happen. Marlene flinched, and the receptionist looked ready to disappear behind the desk. Mia continued, "Sergeant Ward doesn't want this to escalate unnecessarily, but if there's no immediate acknowledgement, formal disciplinary action, and a written apology, we will pursue this in court. And believe me, media coverage will follow." For the first time, the manager seemed genuinely worried. You'd go public?" "Yes," Mia said, firm as steel. "Because this is not just about one soldier. This is about every guest who might be treated unfairly, and every staff member who might be pressured into hiding behind illegal policies. You don't get to hide behind your reputation while treating paying customers like criminals." Marlene paused, looking between the two of them and the silent witnesses in the lobby. The weight of public scrutiny had begun to sink in. Finally, she spoke. I understand. We will cooperate fully. Disciplinary action will be taken. A written apology will be drafted. And we will review our policies immediately." Mia didn't relax. "Good. I expect these documents on my desk within 48 hours. And the footage, reservation logs, and statements must remain intact. Any tampering will escalate this case immediately." Elias nodded quietly. It wasn't a victory yet, but it was the first acknowledgement that he and Mia were being heard. He had faced worse dangers overseas, but this battle was different. It was cerebral, legal, and public. And the stakes weren't life or death, but dignity and justice. Marlene finally nodded, a subtle tremor in her composure betraying her relief that this confrontation might end without litigation. "We will do as requested." Mia snapped her notebook closed. "Good. Then we leave you to get started. Sergeant Ward and I will return to review the documentation tomorrow morning. And Marlene," she added, her gaze hardening, "I suggest you make sure every employee understands the seriousness of what happened." The manager swallowed. "Understood." As Elias and Mia walked toward the doors, the guests in the lobby whispered among themselves, some nodding in quiet approval, others filming small clips on their phones. The sense of public scrutiny, already simmering, would only grow. Elias glanced back once at the employees, their smugness replaced by anxiety, uncertainty, and regret. Outside, the drizzle had stopped entirely. The air smelled faintly of salt from the nearby sea, fresh and cleansing. Elias took a deep breath, savoring the calm. For the first time since the incident began, he felt a sense of empowerment, not from weapons or authority, but from the knowledge that truth, evidence, and persistence could bring justice even in a place built on wealth, appearance, and pretense. "This is just the beginning," Mia said quietly as they reached the car. Elias nodded, determination hardening inside him. "And they won't see the end coming?" As they drove away from the Blue Harbor Hotel, the building loomed silently behind them, unaware that its reputation, employees, and policies were about to face an unrelenting storm, a storm built by a soldier who refused to be silenced. The next morning, Elias and Mia returned to the Blue Harbor Hotel, prepared for what felt like a full-scale inspection. Marlene Cooper, the general manager, met them at the entrance, her polished demeanor now tinged with tension. The employees at the front desk avoided eye contact, whispering among themselves as if bracing for consequences. Mia carried her leather notebook, and Elias held a small folder containing his personal documentation of the incident photos of his soaked uniform, copies of his reservation confirmation, and notes of witness statements. The mood in the lobby was thick, almost electric, as if the air itself recognized the shift in power. "Good morning," Marlene said cautiously. "We have begun gathering all the documentation and disciplinary reports you requested." Mia's eyes narrowed slightly. "Begin. I expect everything completed." "Not begun. Today." The manager hesitated, then nodded. "We are expediting it." Elias leaned against a pillar, observing the lobby. It was strange to feel a sense of calm in a place where he had been humiliated just 24 hours earlier. Witnesses had started to approach staff cautiously, and the murmurs of approval were no longer secretive. Mia turned to him. "I've contacted the local veterans advocacy group. They're preparing a public statement in support of you if the hotel does not comply fully. This is no longer just about a single grievance. It's becoming a matter of public accountability." Elias exhaled slowly. "I didn't want that. I just wanted my room." "No," Mia said firmly. "You wanted justice. A room wouldn't fix this. And now they're going to learn that dignity isn't negotiable." The manager returned with the assistant and a tablet displaying the compiled documents. Reservation confirmations, employee logs, and even internal emails showing discussions about how to prevent uniformed guests from checking in. Mia studied the documents carefully, her expression unreadable. "This is all very damning," she said finally. "Internal communications, logs, security footage, it all confirms deliberate mistreatment." Marlene's hand shook slightly as she adjusted her glasses. "We did not intend, Our staff was simply trying to maintain the comfort of other guests." Mia's voice was sharp. "Intentions are irrelevant when the law is broken. You have acknowledged that Sergeant Ward was forcibly removed despite having a confirmed reservation. That alone is a breach of contract. Coupled with discriminatory behavior, this is actionable on multiple fronts." One of the guests, who had arrived earlier, approached cautiously. "I saw everything," he said. "You treated him like he didn't belong." "I'm a veteran myself, and I can't stay silent." Marlene's face paled. The power of witnesses, amplified by potential media coverage, was becoming palpable. Mia snapped her notebook shut and looked directly at the manager. "We're offering you a chance to resolve this without further escalation. Full cooperation, a written apology, and proper disciplinary measures are non-negotiable. Failure to comply will result in immediate legal action, including public disclosure and civil litigation." The manager swallowed hard, clearly realizing the gravity of the situation. "We understand. I will oversee the disciplinary actions myself." Elias finally spoke. "I don't want anyone punished unnecessarily. I want policies changed, accountability, and assurance this won't happen to anyone else." "That's all." Mia nodded approvingly. "Exactly. Justice isn't about revenge, it's about correction and prevention." Over the next 2 hours, they went through each employee's involvement meticulously. The front desk duo, the security guards, and even some managerial staff who had been complicit were all documented. Witness statements were collected from guests who had been in the lobby during the incident, and some were willing to provide video footage from personal devices. By midday, the manager was visibly distressed but compliant. Every document, every piece of footage, every witness statement was collected and organized. Elias felt a cautious sense of relief. For the first time since the incident, he sensed that the tables had turned. The hotel, once a place of humiliation, was now under scrutiny and pressure. Mia finally leaned against the counter, closing her notebook. "This is everything we need to proceed. The hotel knows we have evidence. The public and the law are on your side. Tomorrow, we draft the formal complaint, and if necessary, we file it in court. Either way, they will not ignore this." Elias nodded slowly. "It feels good. I've never had to fight for something like this before. Not like this." Mia smiled faintly. "It's a different kind of battlefield, Elias. No firefights, no hostile territory, just persistence, facts, and leverage. And let me tell you, sometimes that's even more effective." Outside, the hotel's entrance gleamed under the morning sun. To passers-by, it seemed serene, pristine, untouched. But inside, a storm of accountability and exposure was already in motion. Elias, once a victim pushed out into the rain, now felt the quiet satisfaction of someone poised to reclaim justice. As they stepped out, a small crowd of guests and onlookers lingered near the entrance. Whispers of recognition and support floated through the air. Elias realized something significant. He wasn't alone. Witnesses, advocates, and even ordinary citizens now stood indirectly behind him. The battle that had started as a personal humiliation was transforming into a public reckoning. "This is it," Mia said quietly. "We're about to make history for the right reasons." Elias clenched his fists, feeling the weight of his resolve. Let's do it. Let's make them pay attention. And for the first time in more than a day, he felt fully prepared for the storm he was about to unleash. The morning after their intense meeting at the Blue Harbor Hotel, Mia's phone began buzzing nonstop. She and Elias were seated at a quiet cafe near the courthouse, sipping coffee while preparing the draft of their formal complaint. But today, the battlefront had shifted. The world was beginning to watch. "Look at this," Mia said, turning her phone toward Elias. A viral post was trending on social media. Someone had uploaded footage of the incident, Elias standing in the rain with his duffel bag, the hotel staff closing the doors on him, and the moment Mia confronted them. The video had already amassed thousands of views within hours, with comments pouring in from veterans, lawyers, activists, and ordinary people who were outraged by what they saw. "This is unacceptable. Man served his country but denied a room. Disgusting. Name the hotel boycott starts now." Elias leaned back, stunned. "I didn't want this to explode online." "It was inevitable," Mia replied. "People recognize injustice, and once it's visible, it grows fast." The cafe door chimed as two older men walked inside, both wearing retired military caps. They approached the table hesitantly. "Sergeant Ward?" one asked. Elias looked up. "Yes?" "We saw the video," the man said, gripping Elias's hand firmly. "We've been through similar battles, disrespect, discrimination, people treating us like we're nothing. Not anymore." "We stand with you." The second man nodded in agreement. "We've notified our veterans group." "You're not fighting alone." Their gesture, simple and sincere, pulled at something deep inside Elias. Gratitude mixed with frustration and a sense of newfound responsibility. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about everyone who had been brushed aside, disrespected, or denied dignity because someone else held power. After the men left, Mia opened her laptop. "This is the perfect moment to finalize the complaint. The hotel will try damage control, but public opinion is already turning against them." She drafted with brisk precision, citing the state's anti-discrimination laws, hospitality regulations, breach of contract, and grounds for civil damages. Elias read the lines carefully, absorbing the weight of each accusation. Then Mia paused. "We may need one more piece, a statement from you, about what happened, about how it made you feel, about why this matters." Judges read facts, but they interpret emotion. Elias nodded slowly. "All right," he began writing, the words surprising even himself. "I didn't want to fight. I served my country because I believed in fairness and duty. But when that door closed in my face, it wasn't rain that soaked through my uniform. It was humiliation. I want change, not revenge. I want the next soldier, or anyone wearing a uniform, to be treated with respect. That's all." Mia read his statement with quiet awe. This is exactly what we need. Just as they prepared to head to the courthouse, Mia's phone buzzed again, this time with an unknown number. She answered cautiously. "Yes, who is this?" "Oh." She covered the microphone and whispered to Elias. "It's the hotel's corporate office." Elias frowned. "Already?" Mia returned to the call. "Yes, I'm his counsel." "What exactly are you proposing?" She paced the cafe, listening with narrowed eyes. The corporate representative spoke rapidly, clearly in panic. They offered a written apology, full reimbursement, A week's stay at any of their locations, disciplinary action against the involved employees, and a promise to revise internal policies. When Mia sat back down, her expression was unreadable. "They're scared," she said. "Very scared." Elias stared at the documents on the table. "Is their offer enough?" Mia shook her head. "Not even close. They want this to disappear. But accountability isn't something you buy with free hotel nights." She took a deep breath. "I told them we will review the offer, but we're still filing the complaint." As they walked toward the courthouse, people on the sidewalk recognized Elias from the viral video. Some nodded respectfully. Others thanked him for speaking up. It was overwhelming, surreal, and strangely empowering. For so long, he had been trained to stay silent, follow orders, and endure hardships. This time, he wasn't following, he was leading. Inside the courthouse, Mia handed the completed complaint to the clerk. The date stamp hit the top of the document like a gavel, firm and final. "It's official," Mia said. "The hotel is now under legal action." Elias exhaled, the weight of his decision sinking in. This wasn't just a personal battle anymore, it had become a public reckoning. As they stepped back outside, the sun breaking through scattered clouds, Mia looked at him with a small, proud smile. "You changed the narrative today," she said. "You turned injustice into momentum." Elias glanced at the courthouse behind them, then the city ahead. "And we're not done yet." "No," Mia agreed softly. "We're just getting started." The following week, the Blue Harbor Hotel's corporate team was in full panic mode. Social media attention had exploded. News outlets were calling for statements, and veterans groups were publicly condemning the incident. Inside the hotel, the atmosphere was tense. Front desk staff whispered nervously, security officers avoided eye contact, and the manager, Marlene Cooper, moved quickly to placate her nervous employees while keeping the corporate team updated. Elias and Mia arrived early that morning, not as tourists, not as victims, but as the agents of accountability. The hotel lobby, usually polished and serene, now carried an air of apprehension. Guests noticed immediately that something was different, some whispering quietly while others stared openly at Elias and Mia. Recognizing the viral figure who had challenged a powerful corporation, Marlene Cooper stepped forward, her perfect composure strained. "Sergeant Ward, Miss Hart, we understand your concerns, and we've made some changes internally." Mia raised an eyebrow. "Changes?" "Yes," Marlene said quickly. "We've started policy revisions, some staff have been reassigned, and disciplinary actions are in process. We hope this addresses the issue." Mia's voice cut sharply across the lobby. "Hope isn't enough. We have evidence of deliberate discrimination, breach of contract, and mistreatment. Hope doesn't undo what happened yesterday, last week, or the violation of rights." Elias remained calm, letting Mia handle the confrontation, but he could feel the tension vibrating through the lobby. Even the guests were aware that something was happening that went beyond the usual hotel drama. Just then, a corporate lawyer arrived, looking uncomfortable in the extravagant surroundings. "We'd like to discuss a potential settlement," he said, voice slightly hesitant. "We are prepared to offer financial compensation and a formal apology to Sergeant Ward, along with policy changes and staff training." Mia leaned forward. "Compensation is secondary. Accountability is primary. Written acknowledgement, disciplinary measures, and evidence of genuine policy change are non-negotiable. Anything less, and this goes to court. And believe me, the media will be very interested." The lawyer swallowed hard. "We understand. We are trying to prevent escalation." Elias finally spoke, his voice calm but commanding. "It's not about escalation. It's about fairness. What happened should never happen to another soldier or any customer again." Marlene's face tightened. "We've instructed our staff on the importance of respecting military personnel. We've revised the procedures. Security officers are being retrained." Mia gave a small, sharp nod. "Good, but I need proof." Written policies, updated manuals, signed statements from staff acknowledging the revisions. And we will monitor compliance. The tension in the lobby was palpable. Guests observed the drama, and several discreetly filmed parts of the interaction. News crews had already been tipped off and were gathering footage outside. The viral video had ensured that the hotel could no longer manage this privately. One of the front desk staff, the male receptionist who had first humiliated Elias, approached cautiously. "Sergeant Ward, Mia's gaze snapped toward him. "Do you have a statement?" He hesitated, then nodded. I was wrong. "I apologize. I shouldn't have treated you that way." Elias didn't smile, but he nodded in acknowledgement. The apology, though delayed, was a small step toward restoring dignity. Mia turned to the manager. "This is not just about apology letters. This is about systematic change and accountability. And let's be clear, the public is watching. Any sign of dishonesty or delay, and the media exposure will be relentless." The corporate liar winced. "Understood." Elias's phone buzzed. It was a news outlet requesting an interview. The viral footage had circulated further than he realized. The story had gone national, and reporters wanted his perspective on the incident, the hotel's response, and the broader issue of discrimination against uniformed personnel. He glanced at Mia. "Do we?" "Yes," she said firmly. "You have a platform. Use it to show people that standing up matters. This is bigger than the hotel. It's about respect, dignity, and accountability." Elias nodded, standing tall. He had faced gunfire, hostile skies, and impossible odds overseas, but this was a different kind of battle. It was fought with evidence, resolve, and truth. And for the first time, he realized the weight of his experience could change the world without firing a single shot. As cameras began rolling, he spoke clearly, deliberately. "I served my country. I wore the uniform with pride. And yet, when I needed shelter and safety, I was turned away, humiliated, and treated like I didn't matter. This isn't just about me. It's about every soldier, every veteran, and every person who deserves respect. Accountability isn't optional, and dignity isn't negotiable." The reporters nodded, scribbling notes and recording every word. Outside, social media exploded further, and the hotel's reputation trembled under the weight of scrutiny. Back inside, Mia turned to Elias. "They're panicking now, but good. Panic is productive if managed correctly. The settlement talks, the apology, the policy review, it all has to be verified. Otherwise, we proceed." Elias exhaled slowly. "I never thought a hotel could feel like a battlefield." Mia smirked. "It's all a battlefield, Elias. Some just don't realize it until it's too late for them." The hotel had learned one critical lesson. A soldier's dignity was not a commodity. And for Elias Ward, the fight wasn't just about winning. It was about ensuring that respect, once denied, could never be ignored again.